Hey screen printers, today we're going to be discussing printing on stretchable polyester garments. Now obviously polyester comes in lots of different colors. Here I have an Under Armour garment and then I think just a no-name brand garment, black and white. It's a completely different story when printing on a dark garment versus a light garment. When you're printing with a dark garment you have dye migration, meaning that over 300 degrees the dyes, the black pigments in this polyester will actually come out and transfer into the ink. So we have two options to deal with that. One is a low cure ink or a low cure series of inks or a low cure additive added into an ink. Two is a low bleed or very thick polyester style of ink. Typically that comes in white and then you overprint a standard Plastisol color. Most of the industry these days is going to a low cure because the low cure ink is not thick. It's very soft, it's creamy because the cure point comes down to about 270 to 280 versus 320. At the low cure point, it keeps that dye migration from happening. Now obviously, when you're printing on light polyesters, you don't have to worry about it because there's no dye migration. So you could use standard Plastisol on this. The one thing that you do have to consider is the stretchability of the fabric. If you're using standard Plastisol, you want to make sure that you're using a stretch additive in that ink. The nice thing about the low cure series of inks is it comes with a stretch, basically property already to it, and you don't have to add a stretch additive to it. You don't typically want to add stretch additives or any other additives to low cure inks because if you do, it will take down the low cure properties of that ink, and you could also see some dye migration. So what we're going to do here, we're actually going to show printing on the black because that's more complex than printing on the white. I'm going to be using a new low cure ink from Green Galaxy Systems. So as you can see, this ink is super creamy, very easy to use. It's got a lot of the similar properties to our Meteor White, but it's low cure. I'm then going to be taking one of our highlight colors. This is International Coatings ink, and I'm going to be putting that with a low cure additive at 6% per weight to take the curing point down to match that. Now, International Coatings has a really cool series of low cure inks. So they also have a low cure white, it's pretty cool. They also have low cure colors, but for this particular big game, kind of emulating some Seattle colors, and we need some fluorescent green. And since there's no low cure fluorescent green available that I know of, we're actually going to be putting the additive, the low cure additive in at 6% into a standard Plastisol ink to make sure that we match the cure points. First thing we're going to do is we're going to zero out our container. Then we're going to put just a little bit of ink in. We're not going to use a lot of ink for this job. So we'll take a little bit of the green. And then remember we're mixing this at 6%. So this is the low cure additive. Kind of got a no color look to it. And remember, you're going to use very small amounts precisely to that. So 6 grams is what we're looking for, bringing that up to about 107. And it's 5 to 6 too. You don't have to be exactly at 6. So we're just going to do a little bit more. So probably just add a little bit more that I have on my spatula right there. And then we're going to go ahead and mix that around. So we just mix it very, very well before we use it. Make sure it's completely mixed into the ink. If it's not mixed in all the way, what's going to happen is our ink's not going to cure uniformly. Once we're all mixed up, let's ink the screen and go for the print. One thing to take into consideration when doing performance fabrics is you do want a generous amount of spray tack or top bond water-based adhesive on the palette before you go to print it. It has a tendency to possibly move. It doesn't quite grip the palette like cotton does. In case we have a good amount of spray tack, the other thing that's very important is proper tension and off contact. So we have that as well. We're going to be pulling this. You can see how creamy this ink is. Very, very easy to use. This is a 110 mesh that we're printing on. Do 2 passes. Polyester, you will notice, will absorb a lot more ink than, let's say, see how that looks. So it looks pretty good right there. I'm going to probably hit just one more pass to get a nice white base down. There we go. We're clearing the screen uniformly. So it looks great. I'm going to do another hit, and then I could probably print directly on top of that, but just to get some uniformity there, we'd probably do a print flash print. Flashing is very important too. You do not want to over flash these garments. An air cool flash like we have here works very, very well. If you over flash the garments, you're going to have that dye migration as well. So you definitely want to make sure that you're flashing at more of a 220, 230 temperature. So we're good there. I'll do our overprint, second white. Probably just need one pass there. I have a beautiful white there. Do another quick flash. On polyester overprint colors, just like any other overprint colors, tension off contact is very important. We're going up in mesh, so we're printing this overprint with a 160 mesh or 156 mesh screen. And one hit will do it right there. I think that's done. To cure this, remember, very important that we keep the cure point at about 270 to 280. So that means the surface of the shirt's going to be under 300 degrees. If we do not keep it there, it's going to dye migrate. This is a low cure ink, and that's very important to ensure that we do that. So now we're going to go to cure it. I sped my dryer belt up a little bit and lower the temperature to 500 degrees on the element. And I'm going to use a temp gun to ensure I'm not over temping this guy. My temp right there is about 240, 250. I'm not reaching temp, so I need to lower the dryer down a little bit. Now, since I'm kind of doing some testing here, it's okay if I'm under temp. If I'm over temp, that's what I don't want. So I'm gonna lower the belt speed just slightly to make sure that this gets up to temp. 280, 285. So we should be cured there, and that's what we're looking for. That. So the nice thing about these is you can tell this is a very, very soft ink. It's also very flexible, meaning you can stretch it. So I'll do a stretch test there. Stretches very nicely. Very good adhesion, nice soft hand and feel. And we're going to actually, before we'd go to production here, you'd always want to wash test and then let it sit for like a day or two to see if any of that dye migration happens. Garments always act differently, but remember, if we make sure that we keep our garment temperature below 300 degrees, a lot of that dye migration does not happen. So there we are. Let's go Seattle. Thanks for watching. Check out all these supplies and the new ink coming out on screenprinting.com. The polyester inks from International Coatings and the low cure additives are available right now. We have that new low cure Green Galaxy ink coming out soon as well.